The Galactic Council chamber was vast and filled with the representatives of many species. The air hummed with quiet conversations, but the moment General Vec of the Terran stepped forward, laughter rippled through the room. The Terran were small, both in size and influence. Their navy was weak, their planet barely defended. To many in the Council, they were nothing more than a minor race struggling to survive. Vec's voice was steady, but his hands clenched behind his back. The Drulax Empire has declared war on us. Their fleet is already moving toward our homeworld. We request military support. The laughter grew louder. A tall, reptilian delegate from the Xelec race smirked. Support? What do you have to offer in return, Terran? You have no resources, no wealth, and no strong warriors. Why should we waste our fleets on you? A deep, rumbling voice spoke next. It was from the Yorath ambassador, a towering, armored species known for their strength. You should surrender now, little Terran. The Drulax do not take prisoners. Your people will be wiped out, but at least it will be quick. Vec's jaw tightened. We do not want to surrender. We only ask for assistance. If the Drulax are not stopped now, they will come for others next. A small insectoid delegate clicked its mandibles. That is a problem for the future. Right now, your problem is that you are too weak. The council chamber erupted in murmurs of agreement. To them, the Terran were not worth the effort. Weak species fell, and strong ones rose. That was how the galaxy worked. Vec took a deep breath. He had expected this, but it still hurt. His people were on the brink of extinction, and these so-called allies found amusement in their suffering. But he had one last hope. If the council will not help us, he said, raising his voice, then we will seek aid elsewhere. The room fell silent for a moment before another wave of laughter spread. And who will help you, Terran? A feline-like ambassador sneered. The Drulax are one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. No one will risk war with them for your sake. Vec exhaled slowly, then spoke two words that sent a ripple of confusion through the chamber. The humans. The room fell silent. Then came more laughter, this time louder, mocking, cruel. The humans. The Xelec representative nearly choked on his own laughter. Those newcomers, they have barely been in the galactic stage for 50 years. No one even knows the true extent of their fleet. They don't fight wars. They avoid conflicts. What makes you think they can stand against the Drulax? Vec held his ground. We have always treated the humans with respect. Unlike the rest of you, we never mocked them, never dismissed them. We have worked with them closely in trade and technology. Perhaps they will remember that. The Yorath ambassador grunted. Or perhaps they will see you as what you are, weak and desperate. You will get no help from them. Vec said nothing more. He turned and walked out of the chamber, his head high. The moment he was outside, he took a deep breath. His people's future depended on a single gamble. The Terran had always known that humans were different. Other species had ignored them, underestimated them, because humanity had never shown the full strength of their military. But Vec had seen glimpses, small hints of technology far beyond what the galaxy believed them capable of. The humans were hiding something, and now, for the first time, they would have a reason to reveal it. Vec entered his ship and sent a message straight to the human ambassador. The council has abandoned us. The Drulax are coming. Will you help? Seconds passed. Then a reply came. We will. Vec let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. But before he could feel relief, another message followed. Send us the exact coordinates of the battlefield. Vec hesitated. That was an odd request. Most allies would ask for details on the enemy's fleet, strategies, or how many ships needed to be sent. But the humans only wanted coordinates. He sent the data. And now, all he could do was wait. Vec sat in the command center of his ship, staring at the screen. The message from the humans still glowed on the display. We will help. Send us the exact coordinates of the battlefield. It had been an immediate response. No hesitation, No questions, just a simple acceptance. That alone was unusual. Every other species in the Galactic Council had either ignored their plea or mocked them. But the humans had answered in seconds. Vec had sent the coordinates right away. Now he could only wait. Outside the viewport, the Terran homeworld, Tyrannus, floated in space. It was a beautiful planet, covered in blue oceans and green lands. It had been peaceful for centuries. But now, destruction was coming. The Dralax Empire had already begun moving their warships. Their fleet was massive. Hundreds of heavily armed battleships, ready to crush the Terran without mercy. The Terran Navy, in comparison, was a joke. A few dozen small ships, old and outdated, stood no chance against the incoming invasion. The Galactic Council had abandoned them. Their so-called allies had laughed in their faces. And now, their only hope rested with the humans, a species that had never fought a major war in galactic history. Vec's second-in-command, Torin, stepped forward. "Sir, the humans haven't sent any more messages. What if they were only saying words? What if they don't actually send help?" Vec exhaled slowly. It was a fair concern. The humans were mysterious. They traded with other species, studied them, learned their ways. But they had never revealed much about themselves. Their fleets were rarely seen outside their own systems. No one knew how many ships they truly had, or what kind of weapons they possessed. "I don't know," Torin, Vec admitted, "but they gave their word. And from what I've learned about humans, they don't break promises." Torin sighed. "I hope you're right, sir, because the Dralax fleet will arrive in less than a day." Vec's fists clenched. One day. That was all the time they had left. The Dralax fleet moves. In deep space, the Dralax Supreme Commander, Gorvak, watched his fleet advance toward Tyrannus. His lips curled into a cruel smile. "This will be easy," he said, leaning back in his command chair. "The Terran are weak. They have no real defenses. By this time tomorrow, their planet will be ours." His second-in-command, Officer Kroll, grinned, "And the Council will do nothing. They think the Terran are worthless. No one will come to save them." Gorvak chuckled. "Exactly. The Terran are a lesson to the galaxy. The strong rule, the weak fall, and we are the strong." Kroll hesitated for a moment. "There is one thing, sir." Gorvak raised an eyebrow. "What?" "The Terran have reached out to the humans." Gorvak laughed. "The humans, those soft, silent traitors, the ones who avoid war." He shook his head. "They won't do anything. Even if they send ships, they'll be small, weak, and useless." Kroll smirked. "Yes, sir. The humans are no threat." Gorvak nodded in agreement. "Let them come. It will be amusing to see them try." A silent response. Back on Tyrannus, panic was growing. Cities were evacuating. Families were fleeing to underground shelters. The Terran military was preparing for a last stand, even though they knew it was hopeless. And still, there was no word from the humans. Torin approached Vec again. "Sir, it's been hours. Still no response." Vec's stomach tightened. "They told us to send the coordinates. Maybe they are preparing something." Torin frowned. "Or maybe they aren't coming." Vec refused to believe that. The humans had responded too quickly, too confidently. They had a plan. He just had to trust them. Then, suddenly, an alert flashed on the screen. A single human ship had arrived in orbit. Vec and Torin exchanged glances. A single ship," Torin muttered. "This is their help." Vec felt doubt creep into his mind, but he pushed it away. Open communications. Let's see what they have to say. The screen flickered to life, revealing a human officer. Captain Rains. He had a calm expression, completely unfazed by the situation. "General Vec," Rains said with a small nod. "We received your distress call." Vec straightened. "Captain, where is your fleet?" Rains smiled. "It's on the way. But for now, All you need to do is hold your position. Torin gave Vec a doubtful look, but Vec stayed focused. Captain Rains, the Dralax fleet will be here in less than a day. We don't have time to wait. Rains remained completely calm. Don't worry, General. When the time comes, you'll see. Vec didn't understand. The Dralax were almost here. The Terran were outnumbered, outgunned. How could the humans be so relaxed? But there was something in Rain's eyes, a quiet confidence, a certainty. And for the first time that day, Vec felt a small spark of hope. Something was coming. Something big. The tension in the Terran command center was unbearable. The Dralax fleet would arrive in just a few hours, and still there was no sign of the human armada. General Vec stood before the main screen, staring at the lone human ship in orbit. It was small, sleek, and unarmed. At least it looked that way. Beside him, Torin paced back and forth, frustration clear on his face. "We are doomed," Torin muttered. "One human ship. This is their help. We should have never trusted them." Vec remained silent, his eyes fixed on the screen. The human officer, Captain Rains, had promised their fleet was on the way. But where were they? A sudden beep interrupted his thoughts. A message from the human ship. "Put it through," Vec ordered. Captain Rains appeared on the screen, the same calm expression on his face. "General, we are nearly ready." Vec frowned. "Ready for what?" "The Dralax will be here soon. Where is your fleet?" Rains didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked, "Are your people prepared for battle?" Torin scoffed. "Prepared? We have no chance. The Dralax have hundreds of warships. We have a few dozen small vessels. This is not a battle. It's a massacre." Rains remained unshaken. "Just hold your position. Do not surrender. When the moment comes, you will understand." Vec narrowed his eyes. "What exactly are you planning, Captain?" Rains finally gave a small smile, something the galaxy has never seen before. With that, the communication cut off. Torin threw up his hands. "That's it. No explanation. No strategy. He just expects us to sit and wait." Vec exhaled slowly. "Yes. This is madness." Torin shouted. "We are putting our faith in a single human ship and a promise." Vec turned to face his second-in-command. "Do we have another choice?" Torin had no answer. The Dralax arrive. The moment the Dralax fleet emerged from hyperspace, it was like a dark storm covering the stars. Their massive warships stretched across the void, their metal hulls gleaming under the distant sun. The Terran defense fleet, in comparison, looked like fragile insects against the incoming armada. On the Dralax flagship, Supreme Commander Gorvac leaned forward in his chair, a cruel grin on his face. "This will be over quickly," he said. "Open a channel to the Terran." A moment later, Vec's face appeared on his screen. "General Vec," Gorvac said, his voice dripping with amusement. "Your people have no hope. Your fleet is weak. Your planet is defenseless. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths painless." Vec stood tall. "We will not surrender." Gorvac chuckled. Brave words from a doomed race. His eyes flicked to the side, noticing the single human ship floating nearby. He laughed. "And what is this?" "Your great human saviors. A single vessel. How pathetic." Vec said nothing. He was waiting for something to happen. Gorvac's grin widened. "Very well. If you wish to die, then so be it." He turned to his officers. "Destroy them." The Dralax fleet powered up their weapons. The sky tiers opened. And then, everything changed. Before the Dralax could fire, the space around them rippled. A strange, unnatural distortion spread across the battlefield. The stars bent, as if the fabric of reality itself was twisting. Gorvac's eyes widened. What is this?" Then, suddenly, a massive explosion of blue light filled the void. And out of that light, they appeared. The human fleet. Hundreds of colossal warships materialized in an instant, not through hyperspace, not through any technology the galaxy had ever seen before. They had teleported directly into the battlefield. The Terran command center was silent. Every officer, every soldier, every citizen watching the broadcast stared in shock. Torin's mouth fell open. Impossible. Even Vec, who had trusted the humans, felt his breath catch. He had expected help, but this was something else entirely. The human ships were unlike anything in the galaxy. Each one was a floating fortress, far larger than the Dralax warships. Their weapons glowed with a terrifying energy. Their hulls seemed indestructible, and they had arrived without warning, without a single trace of hyperspace travel. On the Dralax flagship, Gorvax stared in horror. "How?" he stammered. Then, a communication request came through. The human officer, Captain Rains, appeared on the screen. "Supreme Commander Gorvac," Rains said in a calm, controlled voice. "You have made a mistake." Gorvac's hands trembled. What? What is this technology? How did you do this?" Rains tilted his head slightly. "Did you really think we were weak? That we avoided war because we were afraid?" He leaned forward. "We avoided war because we didn't want to break the galaxy." Gorvac swallowed hard. His entire fleet, once so confident, now seemed tiny compared to the human armada. The tide of the battle had turned. And for the first time in his life, Gorvac felt fear. A heavy silence filled the battlefield. The Dralax fleet, once so confident, now seemed frozen in place. Hundreds of massive human warships hovered in perfect formation, their weapons glowing with energy beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. On the Terran command ship, Vec and his officers could only stare at the screen. Torin's voice was barely above a whisper. They just appeared out of nowhere." Vec nodded slowly. His mind struggled to understand what he had just witnessed. The humans had teleported an entire fleet directly into the battlefield. No hyperspace trails, no warning. Just instant arrival. It wasn't possible. And yet, it had happened. On the Dralax flagship, Supreme Commander Gorvac's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. His scales felt cold. His mind screamed at him to act, but he didn't know what to do. A new message flashed on his screen. It was from the humans. With shaking hands, Gorvac accepted the transmission. Captain Rains appeared, his expression calm and unreadable. "Commander Gorvac," Rains said in a neutral tone, "this is your only warning. Leave now or be destroyed." Gorvac's throat was dry. He forced himself to sound strong. "You dare threaten us? The Dralax Empire." "We are not threatening you," Rains interrupted. "We are giving you a choice." Gorvac bared his teeth. "Your technology is impressive, but you cannot expect us to run from a fight. The Dralax do not retreat." Rains didn't react. "Then you will die." Before Gorvac could respond, the human fleet moved. A demonstration of power. Without warning, a single human battleship fired. A beam of pure energy erupted from the vessel, moving faster than anything the Dralax had ever seen. It cut through space like a blade, striking one of the Dralax warships. For a brief second, nothing happened. Then, the Dralax ship vanished. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Silence fell across the battlefield. Every Dralax officer on Gorvac's bridge stared at the screen, eyes wide with horror. Krull, his second-in-command, whispered in disbelief. What kind of weapon is that?" Gorvac's heart pounded. They erased it, in an instant. Before he could fully process what had happened, another human ship fired. Another Dralax warship vanished. Then another. And another. The humans weren't attacking like normal fleets. They weren't engaging in a long, drawn-out battle. They were deleting ships from existence, one by one. Panic erupted across the Dralax fleet. Officers screamed into their comms, demanding answers. Soldiers trembled at their stations. Even Gorvac, a commander who had led countless invasions, felt fear grip his chest like a vice. "We have to retreat," Kroll said, his voice shaking. "We cannot fight this." Gorvak refused to accept it. The Drulax were conquerors. They never ran. But as he watched another warship blink out of existence, he knew. This wasn't a battle. This was a slaughter. A fleeing empire. Gorvak clenched his fists. He had no choice. All ships, fall back. Retreat. Across the fleet, Dralax vessels turned, engines burning at full power. The once mighty armada fled like frightened animals, running from an enemy they could not understand. On the Terran command ship, Torin exhaled in shock. "They're running." Vec, still staring at the screen, barely nodded. "The Dralax have never retreated before." Torin swallowed. Now they have. A new message appeared. It was from the humans. Vec quickly accepted it. Captain Rains appeared again, still calm, still unreadable. "The battle is over," Rains said simply. Vec struggled to find the right words. "Captain, how did you do this?" Rains tilted his head slightly. "We have always had this power. We simply chose not to use it." Vec hesitated. "Then why use it now? Why help us?" For the first time, Rains' expression softened. "Because you treated us with respect. While the rest of the galaxy mocked us, you stood beside us. And we do not forget our friends." Vec felt a lump in his throat. The Terran had never expected this. They had asked for help, but what they received was far beyond imagination. "You saved us," Vec said. "We are in your debt." Rains shook his head. "No debt, only trust." And with that, the human transmission ended. The galaxy watches. News of the battle spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, empires and civilizations watched in disbelief. The Drulax Empire, once feared, had fled in terror. The humans, long seen as weak, had revealed unimaginable power. For the first time in history, the balance of power had shifted. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The battle was over, but its impact spread across the galaxy like a wildfire. On the Terran homeworld, celebrations erupted in every city. People cheered, wept, and embraced one another. They had faced certain extinction, only to be saved by an ally no one had expected: the humans. In the Terran command center, Vec stood silently, watching the massive human fleet on the main screen. The Drulax had fled in terror, something no one had ever thought possible. Beside him, Torin was still in shock. They just left. Vec nodded slowly. "Yes." Torin ran a hand over his face. "I still don't understand. That weapon, that power, they could have destroyed the entire Dralax fleet in seconds. Why didn't they?" Vec turned to him. "Because they didn't need to." Torin frowned. "What do you mean?" Vec's gaze remained on the screen. The humans didn't want to conquer. They didn't want war. They only wanted to send a message. Torin exhaled. "Well, they did. And the whole galaxy is listening." The Dralax in chaos. Far from Terran space, the Dralax fleet limped back to their home territory. The great empire, once feared by all, now faced something new: fear itself. In the Dralax capital, Supreme Commander Gorvak stood before the High Council. He had expected anger, punishment, maybe even execution. But instead, the council sat in stunned silence. At last, the head counselor spoke. "Tell us again what you saw." Gorvak swallowed. "The humans, they erased our ships. No explosion, no wreckage, just gone." The counselor's eyes narrowed. "And you are certain they did not use hyperspace travel to arrive?" Gorvak nodded stiffly. "I saw it myself. They teleported. No warning, no trace." Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was not how the war was supposed to go. The Dralax had expected an easy victory, not humiliation. A younger counselor, his voice laced with nervousness, spoke up. "What do we do now?" The head counselor exhaled heavily. We do what we must to survive. He looked directly at Gorvak. We will not challenge the humans again. Not now. Not ever. Gorvak clenched his fists, but he did not argue. He had seen the truth. The Dralax were no longer the apex predators of the galaxy. The humans were. Galactic reactions. As the news spread, every major empire in the galaxy held emergency meetings. The Yelvans, once neutral observers, immediately sent envoys to the humans, eager to form an alliance. The Zukari, a warlike race that had always looked down on humanity, quietly withdrew their fleets from human borders. Even the mighty Galvoth Dominion, a superpower that had ruled half the known galaxy for centuries, hesitated. Their leaders knew one thing: war with humanity was no longer an option. On every world, in every empire, the same question was whispered. How long had the humans been hiding this power? And more importantly, what else were they hiding? A message from humanity. Back on the Terran homeworld, another message arrived from the human fleet. This time, it was not private. It was broadcast to every major empire, every ruler, every soldier, every citizen across the galaxy. Captain Rains stood on the screen, his face calm as always. His voice was clear, firm, and without arrogance. The battle is over, he said. The Dralax have retreated. We did not come to conquer. We did not come to destroy. He paused, letting his words settle. We came to remind the galaxy that humanity is not weak. Another pause. The weight of his words hung heavy. For too long, we have been ignored, mocked, underestimated. But today, the truth has been revealed. His eyes narrowed slightly. We do not seek war. We do not seek control. But make no mistake, if humanity is threatened, we will act. The broadcast ended, and the galaxy changed forever. New alliances, new fears. On the Terran homeworld, Vec and Torin stood in silence after the message ended. Torin was the first to speak. That was not just a warning. Vec nodded. No, that was a declaration. Torin exhaled. What do you think happens now? Vec turned to face him. A new age begins. Because now, the galaxy had a new superpower. Humanity had arrived. The galaxy had changed. The Dralax Empire, once feared across the stars, was now silent. No threats, no demands, no invasions. Their fleets remained deep within their own territory, licking their wounds, too afraid to challenge the humans again. Other empires had taken notice. Some sent diplomats to Earth, eager to form alliances. Others watched from the shadows, trying to understand how humanity had hidden their power for so long. And some were afraid. A meeting of the old powers. In a secret location, leaders of the three most powerful empires gathered: the Galvoth Dominion, the Zukari clans, and the Trellan Syndicate. Three forces that had shaped galactic politics for centuries, now met to discuss a new problem. The problem was humanity. High Chancellor Vyler of the Galvoth Dominion leaned forward. His golden armor gleamed under the dim lights of the meeting chamber. We underestimated them, he admitted. We all did. Elder Mac of the Zukari, an ancient reptilian warrior, hissed. They have changed the balance. The Dralax were meant to keep them in check. Now, that empire is crippled. Vyler frowned. And what if the humans decide to expand? What if they grow tired of peace? The third leader, a shadowy figure from the Trellan Syndicate, spoke in a quiet, chilling voice. Then we must prepare. The humans do not fear war, and that makes them dangerous. A long silence followed. None of them wanted war with humanity, but at the same time, they could not allow humans to dominate the galaxy. Vyler clenched his fists. Then we must be ready. If the humans ever move against us, we will strike first. And so, in the darkness, a secret plan began to form. An invitation from humanity. Back on the Terran homeworld, General Vec received an unexpected message from the humans. An invitation. Captain Rains himself had sent it. The Terran were being welcomed to Earth, to meet with human leaders. Vec's first reaction was suspicion. Why now? Why invite them after such a display of power? But deep down, he knew this was an opportunity. When he told Torin, the officer's eyes widened. "You're actually going?" Vec nodded. "Yes." Torin shook his head in disbelief. "After what we saw them do, you're not even a little afraid?" Vec exhaled. "Of course I am. But fear is not the same as mistrust. The humans saved us when they didn't have to. I need to understand why." Torin sighed. "Then I hope you find the answers you're looking for." The next day, Vec boarded a human diplomatic vessel. As the doors sealed behind him and the ship left the Terran homeworld, he couldn't shake the feeling. The future of the galaxy was about to be decided. Vec sat in silence as the human diplomatic vessel glided through hyperspace. The stars outside stretched into endless lines, a sight he had seen many times before. But this time, his journey felt different. He was going to Earth. For centuries, humans had been mocked and ignored by the galactic community. Now they had become the most powerful force in the known universe. And yet, instead of conquering, they had extended a hand in friendship. Vec needed to understand why. Arrival on Earth. The ship emerged from hyperspace, and Vec got his first look at humanity's homeworld. It was beautiful. From orbit, he saw vast oceans, green continents, and sprawling cities glowing with light. But what struck him most was the sheer life on the planet. Billions of people, moving, working, thriving. Humanity was not just strong. They were united. A voice came over the comms. "Welcome to Earth, General Vec. We're honored to have you." Vec took a deep breath. "It is an honor to be here." Moments later, the ship descended into the atmosphere, landing at a massive human spaceport. As the doors opened, Vec was greeted by Captain Rains and a group of human officials. Rains extended his hand. "Welcome, General." Vec hesitated for only a moment before shaking it. "Thank you for inviting me." Rains gave a small smile. "Come, there is much to discuss. The truth about humanity." Hours later, Vec found himself in a meeting room, sitting across from Earth's highest leaders. They spoke not of war, but of alliances, not of power, but of trust. Vec listened carefully as the humans explained their history, their struggles, their wars, their unbreakable will to survive. Then came the most shocking revelation. A scientist stepped forward and placed a small device on the table. The screen flickered, showing classified human technology. "This," the scientist explained, "is what allowed us to teleport our fleet." Vec leaned forward, eyes wide. "How?" The scientist smiled. "We mastered something no other race has. Instead of using hyperspace lanes, we found a way to bend space itself. We don't travel through space. We move space around us." Vec felt a chill run down his spine. The implications were unbelievable. This technology didn't just make them powerful, it made them unstoppable. Vec looked at the human leaders. "And you're just sharing this with me?" Rains nodded. "Because we do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to protect it." Vec sat back, absorbing their words. Humanity had the power to destroy entire civilizations, but instead they chose to build alliances. For the first time, he truly understood. The greatest strength of humanity was not their weapons. It was their will to stand together. A new era. Days later, Vec returned to the Terran homeworld, but he was no longer just a general. He was now an ambassador. The Terran officially allied with humanity, the first of many civilizations to do so. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the old powers, the Galvoth Dominion, the Zukari clans, and the Trellon Syndicate, watched with growing unease. They had planned to resist humanity, but now they realized something far worse. Humanity wasn't just strong. They were gaining allies. And soon, they wouldn't be fighting one species. They would be fighting a united force of worlds, led by humans. The legend of humanity. The story of the battle spread across the stars. The small race that was once ridiculed had become the strongest force in the galaxy. The Dralax no longer invaded. The old empires no longer looked down on Earth. Instead, they whispered in fear of what humanity might do next. But humanity did not seek conquest. They sought peace, and anyone who threatened that peace would vanish, just like the Dralax warships had. This was no longer a galaxy ruled by the old empires. This was the beginning of a new age, an age where humanity stood at the center of everything.